Hey everybody, Zach Barnett here with Zach Barnett Guitar. Thanks for joining me. I hope you're having a wonderful day. So today I wanted to talk about 10 things that will help you develop as a guitarist. I came up with a list of 10 items that I feel are important. I guess you could think of them as habits that you could start forming that will help you develop quickly as a guitarist. Now, I wanted to come up with things that weren't dependent on a style of music or weren't dependent on whether or not you're a beginner or an expert at the guitar. I came up with things that no matter who you are or what you're into with music, they will help you improve. So let's start with level 1. Okay, level 1, keep your guitar somewhere where you're going to see it often. So instead of storing your guitar in its case in a closet somewhere, put it somewhere where you're going to see it. This is a really simple thing you can do, and it's going to surprise you how much more you're going to start playing the guitar if it's somewhere where it's out in the open, just begging to be played. So that's my first piece of advice. The more you're playing, the better you're going to get. And you're much more likely to be playing your guitar if it's somewhere where you see it. Okay, level 2, do things that are a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Now, I stress the a little because if you do something that's very outside of your comfort zone, that might just frustrate you, and that's not what we're going for. We're going for stretching you to do something that you haven't quite nailed down yet. Maybe it's something you can do, but requires a lot of effort or a lot of focus. Those are the things that you should be working on during practice time, something that makes you stretch a little bit. So that's advice number 2. Do something that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Okay, level 3, play with a metronome. And let's go back to the basics just for a minute. So music is comprised of 2 very basic things. There's an easy formula to make music. What notes are you playing? What tones are you playing or singing or performing? And when are you singing or playing or performing those notes? So as a guitar player, it's sometimes really easy to get sucked into, what are the tabs for this song, or what notes do I play? Where do I play it on the guitar? And sometimes we forget about the other part of music that's just as important, and that's when are we playing those notes? So that's why I'd recommend a metronome. I have one here, just a physical one, but sometimes I use my phone. I can use Google sometimes, just Google metronome if I need something that's really simple and easy to get to. There's lots of apps out there too, so I'm sure you could find something if you're watching this video to use as a metronome. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy one, but I would highly recommend it. It's going to help you keep in time and help you maintain a steady groove. And if there are times when you want to lag slightly behind or play something a little bit ahead, it won't be because you don't know how to keep time. So that's advice number 3, is play with a metronome. Okay, number 4, take time to review what you have learned. So this isn't so much talking about practicing things that you're currently learning. This is more talking about reviewing what you already have learned and what you already have mastered. So I've found for me personally that there have been times where someone requested me to play something, or someone reminded me of a song that I once knew, but it had been long enough that I couldn't remember how to play it. So what I would recommend is every now and again, just give yourself a quick refresher on things that you've learned, and not only songs, but scales that you've learned or arpeggios that you've learned. Whatever it is that you've learned, take time every now and again to go back and review it, just to make sure that you don't forget it and it stays fresh. So that's tip number 4. Okay, level 5, see how the different things you're learning are related to each other. And some of the best breakthroughs I've had on the guitar have happened as I've related different topics together, or see where they might line up with each other. Say, I learned the pentatonic scale. Here's the first shape. And the pentatonic scale is super useful for soloing. It's super useful for writing cool licks. And then maybe I learned the minor scale. And I could see how those two are related. Now, I might know some bar chords. Here's a minor bar chord, or maybe a few different shapes of bar chords as I've learned different shapes. And then maybe I learned that the minor scale and the major scale are connected. The sixth note of the major scale is the first note of the minor scale. And then I can figure out maybe from there, well, I've found out that the sixth note of the major scale forms a minor chord. The seventh note of the major scale, or the second note of the minor scale, corresponds with a diminished chord. The third note of the minor scale, or the first note of the major scale, coordinates with a major chord. So as you start relating all these different things together, and you can see how different patterns, I can learn one scale shape and overlay the pentatonic scale over it. So I could know where I might want to solo with the pentatonic shapes. And I could find maybe a few of these different chord shapes with the cage system. So I could find, say, my 6 chord and my 1 chord and my 3 chord and all those different chords all just right here. All that information is right there. But that's going to start happening as you start connecting the dots between all these different things that you're learning. So if all of that kind of went over your head, we'll review all of those things one by one. So don't get discouraged, I'd say. We'll make sure we review the pentatonic scales. We'll make sure we review the minor scales, the major scale, all of those different things. And you could start seeing how all of those are connected to each other. But as you start learning these different things, that's the advice I'd give you, is start seeing where you can relate these things to. Or say you're learning someone's music. It doesn't have to just be music theory. You can learn someone else's song and then go back and see, well, what pentatonic shape is that lick in? Or what key is this in? Even if, the key isn't explicitly stated, you could go back and figure that out as you're starting to relate all this different stuff together. So this is kind of a long one, but I think it's really important to make breakthroughs and start having a deeper understanding of the guitar. That's going to happen as you're relating all of these topics back together. Okay, level 6, try doing things that you haven't done before. Now, I'm going to talk about this in a couple different ways. The first way is, say you're learning a scale as an example. If you always play that scale in the same shape, on the same place on the neck, in the same order, then you're not really going to understand that scale apart from that one way that you're learning it. So instead of practicing or reviewing things always in the same way, try playing them in different ways. So maybe we can look at, say you're learning the minor pentatonic scale. And instead of just playing that up and down like you might be tempted to always do, maybe try skipping notes and going up like this instead. Now that might be a new way of looking at things, and it might combine some other knowledge that you had before too, of relating different shapes together. So that's what I would recommend doing, is learning things in a new way, even if you're looking at the exact same thing that you've always looked at. And the second piece of advice I'd give with that is straight up learn something that you haven't done before, ever, or even anything like it before. That's going to help stretch you to new limits or new heights, I guess, in your own guitar playing, as if you're trying to learn things that you haven't done before. That's kind of related to some of the other advice that I've given here, to stretch yourself, but do something that you haven't done before in your practice time. Don't always just play the same things over and over again, or you're going to get stuck at a plateau. Okay, level 7, teach somebody else what you're learning on the guitar. Now, I am a huge believer in this one. As you start teaching other people, you're going to start noticing the holes that you have in your understanding, and that's going to help you and motivate you to go fill those holes with the knowledge that you're lacking. Now, you don't have to be an expert to go and teach what you're learning to somebody else. Just going and explaining to a friend or someone else that might be interested in the guitar, or a buddy that you jam with, what you're learning, that's going to help you to improve as a guitar player. So teaching, it's honestly one of the best forms of learning because it forces your brain to use the information that you have in a new way, kind of like the last piece of advice that I gave you. So that's what I'd recommend. Go teach somebody else what you're doing. Even if you're an absolute beginner, you're going to start noticing that you're going to be making more improvements with your own knowledge. Okay, level 8, record yourself. Okay, level 8, record yourself. Is my voice that annoying to you guys too? Okay, all joking aside, it is really awkward to record yourself, especially at first. I know if you're like me, I hated the way my voice sounded when I first started recording myself. I wasn't used to it, and I think that's pretty common. And with playing the guitar as well, recording myself kind of opened my eyes when I first started doing it to recognize where some of my weaknesses were and where some of my strengths were too. When you're playing, it gets really easy to kind of get in the mode of what you're doing and kind of be in your head a little bit more on what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. And sometimes you might lose sight of what's actually going on. You don't listen to yourself as closely as you should sometimes when you're playing. So what I would recommend is record yourself, and you're going to start noticing maybe where you need to improve a little bit, but also where you're doing better maybe than what you thought you were as well. So, and with that, I would give you a challenge. Do the first take challenge. So, say you're learning a song or something, record yourself and share with other people the very first take you have with that recording, not the fourth or the fifth or whichever one it is. And that's going to motivate you to get it right the very first time. I think that's a really important skill to have, especially if you're looking at performing. You don't want to be, at a gig or something and go, let's restart or let's do this over again. You want to get it right the first time. And recording yourself and sharing the very first take is a good way to help start practicing that, to get it right the first time. So that's advice number 8, record yourself. Okay, level 9, play with other musicians and play for other people. Both of these are extremely satisfying. They're very enjoyable for one, and for two, it's going to help you out quite a bit as a guitarist as well. If you have the chance to play with other guitarists that are more skilled than you, that's really going to help you as you're going to start picking up on some of their skills as well. Some of that's going to start brushing off on you. And if you have the chance to play with other musicians that maybe don't have the same skill set as you quite yet, that's still really important too, because it's going to give you the chance to teach and to help other musicians as well. We're all here on the same journey together. Some of us are in different places, but we're here to help each other out. So that's a very satisfying thing to do as well as a musician, is to help another musician to learn and grow. So playing for other people, that's kind of related to the past, or the last bit of advice that I gave in like that record yourself challenge I told you about. So playing for other people is going to help you overcome maybe some performance anxieties that you have. It's going to help you to feel more comfortable performing for other people, even if you just start with playing for one other person. That's going to help you start overcoming the fear of playing the guitar for someone else. That can be a nerve-wracking thing at first. And as you get more comfortable with that, playing for a few other people isn't going to feel like it's as big of a deal. And then playing for even more people isn't going to feel that much different either. So it kind of helps you develop into being more comfortable performing or being on stage, if you will, is just start playing for somebody else, even if you're a beginner. And playing with other musicians, that's just awesome. That's fun. It's one of the most exciting things about playing the guitar, and I highly recommend it. So that's advice number 9. Okay, level 10. Thanks for sticking with me until the end. So you could probably see by now that a lot of these different levels could have been in any order, but this particular one, have fun, I wanted to leave at the end because I honestly think it's the most important. And you can look at it from like maybe a scientific standpoint. You honestly learn better when you're having fun. So there's that. But we play the guitar because it's awesome. It's fun. At least that's why I picked it up, because I love the music. I love playing it. I love the ability to express myself. I love, I guess, all the emotions that it brings when I play the guitar. It's awesome. I have a lot of fun playing it. But thinking about it from like a practical standpoint, when I'm learning different scales or learning the pentatonic scales, when I was learning those, I would just solo over the same backing tracks that I just found that I love over and over and over again. So there's probably a few YouTube guitar players out there that made some tracks that I've probably given you 100 views on. So you're welcome, whoever you are. But really, have fun playing the guitar and enjoy the journey. It's an awesome one. Thanks for tuning in. I'll have a lot more videos that are coming. If you have any requests, leave them in the comments for videos that you'd like to see. Any other advice that you'd want to give, please leave it in the comments. Please share. We're all here to help each other out, like I said. So until next time, thanks for tuning in.